You have the floor.
Thank you. Merci. Bonjour. Aujourd'hui, j'ai le plaisir.
Today, I have the pleasure to announce a new pillar of the Conservative plan for youth employment. We are putting forward these ideas in a constructive spirit in the hopes that the Liberals will include all or part of our employment plan in the upcoming federal budget.
Today, it's my pleasure to announce additional pillars of the Conservative Youth Jobs Plan. We are presenting these ideas in a constructive spirit in hopes that the Liberals will include all or part of our jobs plan in the upcoming federal budget. Before I announce these ideas, I think it's important to highlight the context. Youth unemployment in Canada was already at recession levels even before the latest increases. But Friday's job numbers show a deepening youth unemployment crisis. The unemployment rate for youth in Canada is now approaching 15%. More than 460,000 young people are now unemployed. The overall youth employment rate is at its lowest level in more than 25 years, excluding the pandemic period. This means that not only is unemployment very high, but many young people are giving up on finding jobs and leaving the labor force entirely. Fundamentally, this is an intolerable situation. The first job a young person gets is often their most important job because it sets them on a track to a successful lifelong career. High youth unemployment doesn't just cause pain and misery in the present. It affects the lifelong career trajectories of the next generation. We need decisive and constructive action to respond to this challenge. Now, so far, the only response to these events from the Liberal government has been to propose increased public expenditure to modestly expand existing youth job subsidy programs. This clearly does not meet the moment. As I said, the magnitude of this problem is enormous. We are already approaching 500,000 unemployed young people between the ages of 15 and 24. A job subsidy program at minimum wage for this cohort only would cost over $1 billion per month, not including all administrative and overhead costs. Aside from questions of whether or not such an approach is desirable, the reality is that we simply cannot afford it. And free entry to national parks is no consolation to young people who would rather be working. The chômage chez les...
Unemployment was already at recession levels for the youth even before the most recent years. But the published figures from Friday show that unemployment is rising among the youth. The unemployment rate for young people today is at almost 15%. The global employment rate is at the lowest it's been in over 25 years, except for during the pandemic period. This situation is intolerable. The first job a young person gets is often the most important because it sets him or her on the path to a successful career. A high unemployment rate among young people does not only cause suffering today, it has long-term effects over the career trajectory of the coming generations. We need decisive and constructive action to deal with this challenge.
Proposing a jobs plan that meets this moment in scale and in magnitude. We are calling on the government to take our constructive ideas and include them in Budget 2025. Our Conservative Youth Jobs Plan has 4 pillars, 2 of which we've already announced and 2 of which I'm announcing today. The first pillar of our Conservative Youth Jobs Plan is to unleash the Canadian economy. Repeal Liberal anti-energy and anti-resource development laws, cut taxes to incentivize reinvestment in Canada, and confront the red tape and bureaucratic costs that are blocking home construction and business growth in general. This was the central focus of our platform in the last election, and there is no copyright on these good ideas. Liberals should take them and implement them in their next budget. The second pillar of our Conservative Youth Jobs Plan is to fix immigration. Liberals have wrecked our immigration system and left it out of sync with the needs of our labor market. This has led to the multiplication of demand for entry-level jobs far beyond the supply of those jobs. More job seekers and not enough jobs. Another problem related to immigration is the failure of the government to address the serious gaps in credential recognition. When a newcomer is not able to work in their area of skill and knowledge, that worker will compete with young people for entry-level positions instead. This is a double negative. as we lose out on the benefit that could come from that person working in a higher skill area, and a young person potentially loses an opportunity for an entry-level job. So it's time to unleash the economy and fix immigration. The third pillar of our Conservative Youth Jobs Plan is to fix training. Currently, the federal government supports students pursuing post-secondary studies through the Canada Student Financial Assistance Program. Loans and grants are offered to students based on their financial circumstances, regardless of the program of study they are pursuing. This should change. Today, we are proposing that support given through the Canada Student Financial Assistance Program should offer relatively more help to students pursuing studies in in-demand fields. The government should establish a process for making objective determinations about what areas of study are more or less likely to lead to positive career outcomes for those who pursue them. Le troisième pilier.
The third pillar is to address training. Currently, the federal government and students that are in post-secondary studies they receive support through the financial aid program, and the financial aid is granted regardless of the area of study. This needs to change. We propose that the support offered by this program focus on providing more support for students who are studying in high-demand areas. The government should establish a process to objectively determine what areas of study are most likely to lead to stable and well-paid jobs.
Intentionally not give examples about what might be more or less in-demand skill areas to study, because these decisions should reflect objective analysis of economic data. Decisions about in-demand areas of study should be made objectively and not be based on the preferences or prejudices of politicians. But these distinctions must be made, because when youth unemployment is rising at the same time as shortages persist in critical skill areas, we need to do a better job of aligning education and training with the needs of the labor market. Differences in the value of available grants based on labor market demand for certain skills would help magnify market signals to students and to institutions about what kinds of skills our economy needs. There are many different legitimate reasons why people pursue post-secondary studies. Not all of them relate to future job prospects. But when the state is subsidizing those studies, it is legitimate and right for the public to align those subsidies with the vital objective of preparing young people for jobs. Now, also in the area of fixing training, I want to highlight our proposals in the last election to significantly increase support for union-based training programs for the acquisition of trade skills, and to offer direct federal support for vocational programs in high schools. My advice to young people is always to start as early as possible, looking at the labor market and seeking to acquire skills that will position them well for success. More high school vocational programs, expanded union-based training, and post-secondary programs that reflect the needs of the labor market, incentivized by changes in the Canada Student Financial Assistance Program, will help to fix the misalignment that has emerged between education and the job market. So, unleash the economy, fix immigration, and fix training. The fourth pillar of our Conservative Youth Jobs Plan is to promote employer-provided housing near where the jobs are, especially to make it easier for people who are unemployed to consider relocating to areas where workers are required. We need to build more homes where the jobs are. Le quatrième pilier.
The fourth pillar is to promote the building of housing that is provided by employers where the jobs actually exist to facilitate labor mobility. We need to build more homes where the jobs are. Building more housing in regions where there are jobs would help to reduce the pressure in the housing pressures in major cities, and would mean young people could consider new opportunities elsewhere in the country. I often speak to young people who are unemployed, and they often say that they would be prepared to move, but they have a hard time finding affordable housing close to these jobs. We can resolve this problem by creating new incentives to encourage employers to provide housing for their workers. Some already do this, but the costs and regulatory obstacles make this difficult for small and medium enterprises. And this is why the Government of Canada should include in the upcoming budget tax incentives for the building of employee-based housing.
Are available will help take pressure off the housing situation in larger cities and will make it easier for young people to consider new opportunities in other regions of the country. I often speak to unemployed young people, and one of the things I ask is if they would consider relocating for a job. A common response is that they would be open to it, but for challenges around finding housing close enough to the job or transportation from available housing to where they are working. We can solve this problem through new incentives to promote employer-provided workforce housing where the jobs are. Even as youth unemployment grows, there are parts of this country with lower unemployment, where employers struggle to find people. Foreign labor cannot be the only solution. Secure and comfortable housing available on-site or close by makes relocation for Canadians so much easier. Some employers are already doing this, but cost and regulatory barriers that make housing construction difficult also apply to employers who are trying to find unique ways of attracting employees to their region. These pressures are especially acute for small businesses. And so the government should include in the next budget tax incentives aimed at promoting the expanded construction of workforce housing. We're proposing today that the government offer a 100% capital cost write-off to companies for workforce housing. If your company, whether a small local restaurant franchise or a large manufacturing plant, wants to make available workforce housing, then your company should be able to write off all of the cost of that capital investment in the first year. Nous proposons aujourd'hui que
Today, we call on the government to provide a capital cost write-off 100% worth for those companies that build housing for their employees, whether we're talking about a small local restaurant or a major plant. Any building, any business that builds homes for their labor force should be able to write these off in the first year.
Government could put in place to improve the cost proposition for those considering workforce housing. In general, incentives in this direction are required. But in particular, a 100% accelerated capital cost write-off in the first year would be a powerful and dramatic tool to help employers in regions of low unemployment to get going quickly. Accelerated capital cost write-off is a tool for tax deferral. It doesn't actually leave the government any worse off for revenue in the long run, but it significantly helps small businesses that might otherwise struggle with cash flow to get workforce housing rolling quickly. So this is our Conservative Youth Jobs Plan. Unleash the economy, fix immigration, fix training, including by offering relatively more generous federal assistance to students seeking in-demand skills, and build homes where the jobs are by offering new supports to companies building workforce housing. The government does not at present have a youth jobs plan. We do. We are putting forward the Conservative Youth Jobs Plan in hopes that the government will incorporate these good ideas from the Conservative Party into their upcoming budget. Le gouvernement libéral,
the Liberal government, has no plan for youth employment. We do. And we're putting this plan forward in the hopes that the government will include these good Conservative ideas in its upcoming budget.
For this opportunity, and now I look forward to your questions.
Merci, thank you. On va passer à la période de questions. We'll go first with the questions in the room. Please stick to one question or one follow-up. First off, Craig Lord, Canadian Press.
Hi, thanks for taking our questions. You mentioned when you were speaking about the capital cost write-offs for employer-built housing that foreign labor can't be the only solution for perhaps businesses that operate in remote areas. Is this plan meant to offset the other Conservative proposal to axe the temporary foreign workers program?
Well, as I laid out, this is part of an integrated plan, and one of those points is to fix immigration. We've talked a lot about the need to fix immigration, the fact that the numbers have been too high in general, and that the programs we have, including the temporary foreign worker program, are not well aligned with the needs of our country. We think that that program, as we've announced already, needs to be ended. And these incentives will create additional opportunities for employers to attract Canadians, make it easier for them to recruit Canadians, and create more opportunities for Canadians to live where the jobs are. It's part of an integrated plan that will unleash opportunity for Canadians.
Follow-up.
And you mentioned that you do not want to list examples of in-demand areas for where training could be ramped up, but you have mentioned trades, vocational studies. Is there a focus on physical labor, those kinds of demands in this plan from the Conservatives?
So I more went, I didn't want to get into the dangerous territory of giving examples of programs of study that are less likely to lead to employment. The point is, I think these decisions need to be made objectively. So for the Canada Student Financing Program specifically, what we're proposing is that there be objective determinations of what kinds of programs of study are more likely and less likely to lead to employment, and that in particular, the grants that the federal government offers reflects those determinations. You're right to point out that we have also specifically advanced proposals for supporting trades training. We see that there are major shortages in that area, and this is not new for us. In the last election, we proposed a significant expansion of funding for union-based training, as well as, and I mentioned this as well, getting more vocational training, including trades-based training into high schools. I think it's valuable for young people to be able to start as early as possible, looking at the labor market, thinking about where those spaces of overlap are between their interests and also what the labor market is interested in, labor market requires, and to start those programs of study as early as possible. So these are things we've already proposed, and we're proposing additional policy in that regard today. Thank you.
Abiel Biman, CTV.
Student financing program. I take your point about why you wouldn't want to give specifics here, but I imagine that to put this forward, you must have done some research to show that there would be some benefits here. So can you maybe tell us what some of the tangible differences are on the table by switching from financial needs to in-demand labor? Like, what would the tangible outcome be?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that it's not about switching from financially. Financial need continues to be should continue to be a consideration, of course. But the proposal is that objective determinations would be made about what skills are more or less likely to lead to opportunities in the labor market, and that relatively more generous grants would be offered in those areas that are aligning with the needs of the labor market. This proposal reflects a lot of conversations that I've had with institutions as well as with employers who are concerned about misalignment between, on the one hand, skills they're looking for, but on the other hand, a difficulty in finding those specific skills. But I'll also say this was the kind of the spotlight discussion in the latest version of the labor force survey that came out on Friday, which spoke specifically about an increase in the number of people that are not working in their field of study. So a growing number of the LFS looked at core age for this portion of their analysis, and the younger cohort within that core age group were more likely to be working outside of their chosen field. So anecdotally, but also in the LFS data, we are seeing increasing frustration that there is a misalignment between what skills or areas of study young people are in and what is being demanded by the labor market. So we're trying to magnify through this policy, magnify to institutions, magnify to young people who are planning their career, what kinds of areas are more or less in demand from the labor market.
I heard anything that you've seen in terms of potential tangible outcomes from that move, but I also want to go back to something you said at the beginning of your answer, which was that you're not sort of getting rid of the financial needs component. Can you expand a bit more on that? Are you talking about adding a component for in-demand jobs while maintaining the financial needs program as it is? And if it's an expansion, how much more would that cost in terms of grants and loans?
Okay, so I'll come back to your first question after, but if I can answer the second part first. So right now, you're eligible for grants under the program based on financial need consideration. So one way that the government could give life to this proposal would be to simply say, okay, for those who are already eligible for those grants, so those who already fall within that financial need category, there are certain kinds of programs where they would get a higher grant, and there are certain kinds of programs for which they would get a lower grant. So that would be one simple way of giving life to this proposal, is to take the existing grant eligibility and then to increase or reduce the value of the grant. And this could be done in a cost neutral way that simply offers more or less in a way that reflects the realities of what the labor market is looking for. And coming back to your point about outcomes, I think it is. I think the outcome of sending this signal to young people and to institutions is to increase demand for programs of study that relate to areas where there is high demand in the labor market. There's nothing to stop somebody from studying a program that is less likely to lead to a job outcome. But it is a strong signal up front if, in the process of applying for grants from the federal government, these signals are being sent, and it impacts your ability to access these grants, and that process of magnifying that market signal would impact student choice, would impact what institutions are offering, and give institutions an incentive to really try to link with and demonstrate the value for the labor market of the programs that are being offered.
We go to Hill Times. Marlo Glass. You want to do it, Grace? No?
So you mentioned that the Liberal government doesn't have a youth employment plan. There's a Secretary of State that's assigned to this file. What do you think do you think she's adequately addressing the issue of youth unemployment?
I don't think the government in general is adequately addressing this issue. The numbers continue to climb. The government has no plan. But we're here in a constructive spirit to put forward our ideas and encourage the government to include these in their budget. I'll mention as well, the Human Resources Committee is studying the issue of youth unemployment, and we have invited all of the relevant ministers to come before the committee and testify about this issue, as well as testify about their mandates in general. We have yet to have those ministers come. Certainly, we look forward to asking those questions. We want to hold the government accountable for what has not happened up until now, but also present these constructive proposals for which they're welcome to take and implement, and we'd encourage them to take and implement in the budget.
Follow up, Grace? No? You're good? We'll go to Olivier Ferron-Boissé, TVA.
Merci. Regarding the temporary foreign program, how do you make sure that the businesses in manufacturing sector and in farming get access to the labor they need that they cannot get anywhere else, while you're trying to tackle the problem in other sectors like fast food chains, where youth employment can really be impacted by the program right now?
Yeah, well, I'll underline that when we made the initial announcement on temporary foreign workers, we were very clear about the carve-out for the agriculture sector specifically. There's obviously some unique dynamics operating there. What we're trying to propose for our jobs plan is to help young people to have the skills and be able to move to the places where the jobs are. We have high youth unemployment. So in principle, with the right policy changes, we should be able to facilitate the matching of young people who are unemployed with the job opportunities that exist. And I think these policies that we're proposing are important steps to making it easier for young people to go to where the jobs are, to develop the skills necessary to take those jobs. So this package together, unleashing our economy, fixing immigration, as well as the additional changes that we've announced today, I think will work very well in tandem to meet the needs of unemployed young people and also to meet the needs of employers.
Next up, Emma, iPolitics.
Hi. In regard to changing training and post-secondary funding, I'm wondering if by sending this signal through highlighting sector need, I'm wondering if you guys are exploring any other methods to highlighting this need other than changing funding to students who need it.
Well, so what we've put forward in the area in general of fixing training so far is the change that I highlighted today around the student financial assistance. But we've also put forward proposals around expanding union-based training in the skills trades area. This was in our last election platform, and supporting vocational programs in high schools. We have also proposed reinstating apprenticeship grants and streamlining EI for apprentices. So a number of proposals in the last election that we put forward, I think were very well received around addressing support for those pursuing careers in the trades. So that, along with this proposal, this is what we're putting forward today, and I'm sure there may be other people with other ideas, and we're happy to listen to them.
Just to follow up, those methods you said kind of highlight a demand in the trades. Yeah. Is that kind of saying that coming forward that these funding changes will also focus on trades?
Well, we're talking about two different things. So the programs around grants and loans for university students, what we're proposing as part of our package is that if you're studying in a university program, let's say, that for skills that are more in demand or less in demand, that would impact the level of grant you would be eligible for. So that's what we're proposing, in addition to some of the specific targeted supports for those in the trades.
Megan Gilmore, Canadian Affairs.
Hi. Can you just explain a little bit more about the employer housing? So after the first year, you're proposing a 100% capital tax write-off. What about after that? Like, what happens in the subsequent years?
Yeah, so accelerated capital cost write-off is a policy used to stimulate capital investment. It's been used in various ways previously. Normally, you would write off the cost of capital expenditure a little bit at a time over the period of the life of an asset. Accelerated capital cost write-off allows you to defer taxes by writing off all of the cost of that asset at a faster rate. In this case, we're proposing all would be in year one. So this would be quite a generous tax deferral tool. In the second, third year, the capital will have already been written off. But it's an opportunity for an employer to defer taxes that they would otherwise pay in that initial year.
And several of these proposals sound like they wouldn't actually be implemented for a while yet. So for students who right now are considering, what am I going to do this summer for a job? What do you have to offer them?
Yeah, so look, I think the impacts of these proposals play out on different time horizons, but some of them play out very quickly. There are some measures the government could undertake right away around unleashing the economy, incentivizing expanded investment in this country, addressing the problems in the immigration system that would play out right away. And I do think in particular, the housing proposal as well is something that could play out relatively quickly as well. There's no getting around the fact that the youth unemployment problem we face is downstream of 10 years of bad policy from the current government. My view is that failures on the economy, failures on immigration, failures on training, failures on housing, and in other areas, over the last 10 years, that has brought us to the point we're at now, which is, among other things, high and rising youth unemployment. So we're presenting a plan to turn that around, and I think some parts of this could unroll quickly. Some of them will take a little bit more time, but I think will make a difference. Could make a difference even by next summer for young people that are right now losing hope, but wanting to see signals from leaders that change is coming.
Rémi Autier, CPEC.
I'm wondering about this idea of the deference for building housing. 2/3 of employment in the private sector in Canada comes from small and medium businesses who I don't believe would have capital to, in extra of doing their work, build houses and housing and not just, camps like we see in China to house everyone. So where do you think the money will come from, and what kind of is it the real incentives to get employees near their employers, and how would that work?
So, I would say that in a lot of small, rural, and remote areas, small business owners are already exploring or making an effort to do this. It wouldn't be uncommon for businesses that, especially that have relied on temporary foreign labor in the past, to have some engagement on the housing side. So this does provide an opportunity for large and small scale. But look, I think the accelerated capital cost write-off, as an advantageous tax deferral up front, it provides particular opportunities to businesses that might otherwise have concerns about their cash flow. It's an incentive that I think could be very powerful, and I think there are lots of reasons why small businesses are struggling right now as a result of government policy. The bureaucracy, the barriers to investment, high taxes, etc. So there are many ways in which we need to shift policy in order to support small businesses. But I think as it relates to the labor side, this is an opportunity, an incentive that could make a difference, I think, for small as well as larger businesses.
And as a follow-up, I look at your 4 pillars: unleash the Canadian economy, fix immigration, and promote building houses were all part of your plans in the election that were not at all related to youth employment. Now you are repackaging those things in another light. How is that different, and how is that really going to help youth instead of just general promises?
Well, I think you're right to point out that some of the things I'm talking about today are things that we have proposed in the past, and are things that, if implemented, would have had a positive impact on employment for young people. It would have been, from my perspective, better if we had an opportunity to implement those things. Instead, we're proposing that the government take these good ideas and put them in the budget. But I'm announcing, as you know, additional proposals today around fixing training and around promoting the construction of homes where the jobs are. So what we're proposing today is a youth jobs plan that integrates many of the good ideas we've talked about in the past with new ideas. And I think this package together would, if implemented, help young people get back to work.
We got one last reporter on Zoom, so if you allow, sir, we'll go to Palak from Parliament Today. Palak, you have the floor.
Hi, good morning. You're mentioning this constructive spirit in which you're bringing these proposals forward. Is your party's support for the budget contingent on these being brought to life, as you say? And is that the only way for the Liberals to secure that support?
I'm not going to speculate on any of that. I'll just say that we have constructive proposals that we'll be putting forward and encouraging the government to implement them for the good of the country. And that's the spirit in which we're putting these things forward. It's about concern for young people who are affected by unemployment, and I hope that the government will look seriously at these proposals and take them on board.
And just along that point, I know you mentioned the committee study itself, but
Yes.
has your House leadership team, for example, taken these proposals to the government for inclusion in the budget? And if not, then what are you hearing from government MPs on the committee about these pitches?
Well, so we've had 3 hearings so far at the Human Resources Committee, and those who aren't following it, by the way, I would really encourage you to. It's a very substantive study. We're hearing a lot of powerful testimony from young people, from employers, from people represent them, from civil society groups and experts, et cetera. And they are zeroing in on the key problems that we're talking about. The fact that it's harder to create jobs in this country because of barriers the government has put up that are preventing economic growth. The problem of how a poorly managed and misaligned immigration system is impacting, in particular, young people and working class people who have a harder time accessing jobs as a result of a poorly aligned immigration system. A lot of discussion about gaps and challenges in training at that committee, as well as issues around challenges in relocation that we've talked about on our 4th point. So all of these things are reflective of conversations that I've been having, as well as what we're hearing at the committee. And I'll mention that what we had wanted as Conservatives was actually to begin this study on youth unemployment in the summer. We had put forward a motion in June calling for a summer study on youth unemployment, and that was opposed and blocked by the Liberals. So we weren't able to begin this work until the last few weeks. But now we're better late than never. We're beginning that study on youth unemployment. We're putting forward constructive ideas today. And as I said, my hope is that the government will look at these ideas, consider them, and include them as part of the budget coming up.
All right, I think everyone had a chance to ask questions. Ceci met un terme à cette conférence de presse.